On a personal note, I have gotten to know Assistant Chief Jacobson quite well over these past several years. And while he clearly has so many of the attributes that are important for success as a police chief, the thing that I am most impressed about is example after example of his genuineness, his commitment to the community. He shows up after hours. He knows people's names in the community, whether they are victims of gun violence. He knows the perpetrators. He knows these members of our community. He knew Anthony Strother, who was shot and killed just last week. And I think that genuineness is vital to the success of community policing. We have a person that I'm confident will become the next chief of police who deeply, deeply cares about our city and our community. And I'm excited that he has a willingness to step up to this role. It's a great, great responsibility, but I am confident he will thrive. And the other thing I want to underscore is he earned this job. He earned this job. There were some highly qualified people that applied for this job, and not only has he prepared over the past 15 years that he has been a member of the New Haven Police Department, but he was really prepared through the interview process, and it showed that his desire to be police chief was deep and significant and genuine. He shined above the rest. On the logistics side, before I hand it over to Acting Chief Rush Kittle, who very much wants to move back to Chief Administrative Officer as soon as she can, we will be submitting Assistant Chief Jacobson's name for the Board of Alders review on June 6th for that meeting. And then there will be an Aldermanic Affairs Committee meeting and hearing to review the appointment. And then I presume and hope the Board of Alders will confirm him probably early July. That's, of course, up to the Board of Alders process. I'm going to hand it over to Regina Rush Kittle.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. As you all know, I was the lead on the police chief search, our next police chief for the city of New Haven. We conducted a comprehensive national search to select that next police chief. It was clear at the stages as we identified the top candidates that Assistant Chief Carl Jacobson rose to the top. And that was solidified during our interview process. He came to New Haven from another state. He embraced New Haven, and he is now a New Haven resident. He embodies all that is right about community policing, all that is positive about community policing, and he is a community policing at its finest. Under his leadership, I know that the New Haven Police Department will do that well. Congratulations, Chief.
Oh, good morning. It's been quite a journey. I'd first like to thank the mayor and the city for the process. It was a lengthy process. It was a good process. It was challenging, and I'm glad that I was able to accomplish the process and come out on top. I'd also like to thank Chief Dominguez for leaving the department in good shape. We do a lot of things well. We're moving in the right direction, but there's a lot of things we can do more of, and we'll be getting to that soon. And I'd like to thank the Board of Alders for their consideration. I've spoken to some of the Board of Alders already. And I'd like to talk about community policing real briefly. I do live in Westville. I only live 3 blocks from where Mr. Struthers was murdered. I spent the rest of the week up on South Genesee assisting residents, helping police officers, and working to help rebuild that community. They're hurting. They're really hurting. And, you know, that's what it's all about. When I first came here in 2007, I came from a department that just answered 911 calls. And I was asked to walk a beat in the Hill area. And I loved it. And I learned members of the community's names, people that I still bring turkeys to on Thanksgiving and still send me Christmas cards. And it was the essence of community policing. And then in 2013, after a spike in violence, we started to do Project Longevity and group violence intervention. And I learned to knock on people's doors and ask them, tell them that we wanted them safe, alive, and out of jail. And that worked. So there's a lot of things that we can do, but like I said, and we are headed in the right direction, but we can do better. So I thank the mayor and the administration for their efforts, their trust in me. And I do want to thank my daughter for being here. Last year, she was in as a freshman at the University of New Haven studying criminal justice, and I was there taking my master's. So we've done a journey together. I got my master's in December. You better graduate, dear. But I wanted her to see the process and see the accomplishment, because you really can do anything. And I never got into this job to be the chief, but a few years ago when I was asked to be an assistant chief, I still wasn't sure, but a lot of the officers there and community members said, take the job because you care. Take the job because you care. And now here we are. So I appreciate it. And, you know, the process isn't over. We have to continue the process and do the best we can. And to the community, I'm going to be there for you. It doesn't matter what time of day or night. I'm going to be there for you. And to the officers, I am very proud to lead this department. This is a very good department. And I was told a long time ago, as a supervisor, you just get what your officers need so they can do their job and to make them better. You know, and that's what I'm going to do for this police department to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Don't go too far. Any questions from folks?
For Assistant Chief Jacobson first, could you speak a bit about your experience as Assistant Chief? What have you learned in that role during that time, and how do you think that's prepared you for the role of Chief?
Well, it was really a different job, right? I came as a lieutenant. I was in charge of the shooting task force, and I was in charge of the narcotics unit and other units like that. So I went from being, you know, plain clothes and not very visible to highly visible. But I learned that that the officers and the community, they don't, and this is a quote that you heard before, they don't care what you know until you know that you care. And you have to show that you genuinely care. And that's what I learned being an assistant chief. It didn't matter, you know, I could come up with any strategy in the world, but I had to believe in it first, and I had to have my people believe in it. And that goes miles. So I definitely learned a lot about visibility, being out in front of the troops. Like the mayor said, we were up there all week at South Genesee. You know, we were up there because we care. And the officers did a great job. Someone brought a gun to a vigil, and it ended safely. That's what it's about, you know, being there for the officers in the community.
What do you see as the biggest issues facing the New Haven Police Department at this time, facing the community at large from a police perspective? Kind of what's the state of the department? And
Well, I think that it's always going to be building community trust. And I'm a big proponent of legitimacy. You know, legitimacy through procedural justice, and there's different avenues of that, but it's like giving people a voice, being neutral in your decisions. And I think we do that, but we have to do it better. So I think we have to build that community trust, when you do that, then you solve homicides better. Then actually people adhere to the law when you do that. So I think we can do that better. And I think one of our other big goals is getting people to be police officers. We need to be innovative and get more than ever New Haven residents to be police officers.
there's a whole confirmation process ahead, but you're currently the only assistant police chief. Have you thought about who you would appoint as assistant police chiefs if you're confirmed for this role? And
Yes, and I think I will, I'm going to look for people that have strengths where I don't have strengths, and I'm going to look for a diverse group to help me along this journey. It's very important that we have a diversity within our ranks, and it's also very important that I have people that can tell me, Chief, that's not a good idea. You know, I have people that I trust to tell me that, and that's what I've been thinking about, so.
And then if I may, for Alder Smith, I wonder if you could speak a bit about why are you here today? Why are you here supporting Assistant Chief Jacobson, and what has your experience been with the Assistant Chief during your time in the city?
Thank you. I'm here because I believe in him. I'm here because I've seen his actions. I'm here because I know that he can be a great chief of police. I'm here because he believed in the people, and I'm grateful that he got through this process the correct way, and it's time to get the city back to where we need it to be. I know he can bring the force even stronger, and I've seen how his work is. So I believe in him, and I'm just 1 out of 30, and I just hope that all the rest of them believe in him also. Thank you.
What about the other members of the Board of Alders? Do you think this is going to be smooth sailing to confirmation?
Well, I can't speak for the other members of the board, and I wouldn't dare try to speak for the other members of the Board of Alders. Everyone has their own voice to speak. But I can say within myself, I know that he's truly a man of his word. I know that whenever I call him, the wee bits of the hours, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, he answers his phone call. And he calls and let me know what's going on in my community. And to have someone like that, they're worthy of the position to be chief. Thank you.
Chief, just your reaction when you got the phone call or the meeting, you know, when they said, hey, you're our tip, just your initial reaction.
I was glad, you know, I was kind of like, oh, I got the job. And then I was like, oh, I got the job, you know, so, yeah, I was glad. The real emotional call was when I called my mother, you know, that was something else, and my daughter. I told her I wasn't gonna get emotional, so I'm not. But, yeah, I'm excited, and we were able to tell the command staff today, because it went pretty quickly, and that was a real good reaction too, so that was good.
I have a couple of questions. Chief, anything that you think should change about the way you guys do your jobs?
Well, I mean, like I said, I'm gonna put a plan together for the alders, but there's little things we can do today, right? Every single police officer has a phone. Every single police officer's phone number should be on a business card. That's how community policing starts, so that the officer in your area can be reached by you. You can leave a message, you can get to know them. That's how I started, and, you know, kind of say my age, but we started with pagers, right? And we gave out our pager numbers. So the first thing I'm gonna do is have the printer print phone numbers on every single officer's business card with their name, and start looking back to those days of community policing. We also talked about, you know, everybody has their own top cop in their area. You don't need the chief or assistant chief, you call your lieutenant in charge of that area. And I think we can restore that rank. I think the district managers do a great job, but we can give them more responsibility and have them even do a better job and be more receptive to the community, and working on officers being receptive to the community.
Thanks. I have another question. During the approval process the last time around, it was clearly an issue for a number of alders that they wanted a chief who, quote, looks like me. People who said that were men, so maybe you look more like that because you're a man, but, you know.
Well, I mean,
If we're talking about, you know, race or ethnicity, maybe you don't look so much like them. And this is a question for everybody. How is it going to be different this time around?
well, first I want to say what I said in the beginning. Chief Dominguez was a great leader. She did a good job. But we got to move on from that. I believe that people are people. There was a period of time where people in the community would approach me, and it didn't matter what race they were, ethnicity, anything. And that's because I come to people in the community with kindness and care, and I give them voice, and I give them what they're looking for out of their police officers. So I'm gonna appeal to the Board of Alders just to look at my record and what I've done in this city and how I interact with people in this city.
Just one more for the mayor about the search process. So is the search process now done? Have you done all of the interviews? You're done with that and pending the approval of Chief Jacobson, that's done? Or?
I sure hope so. I'm submitting a name. It's done. It's done. We had 15 applicants, and there were some very, very solid people as part of that process, but we've completed the search process.
You said there was 15?
Correct. 1-5. 1-5.
And then I know there's a Board of Alders meeting tonight, but you said that he's not going to be on the agenda.
Frankly, I'd like to submit Chief Jacobson's name tonight, but because it's a special meeting of for the budget, we've been told by the alders that we have to wait until early June to submit his name. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, so, what is